All right, man. So I want to start at the beginning and get your backstory. So you were born in Detroit, but your
Mhm.
family is from Pakistan. Which part of Pakistan?
Yeah, so my father is from a city called Sargodha in the Punjab side, and my mom is from the kind of like the opposite side, which is the Sindh side, and she's from a city called Karachi.
And you grew up with one brother?
Yeah, I had one older brother and a younger sister.
Okay. What did your parents do for work?
So my father originally, when he came to Detroit, he only had like $50 in his pocket, man. So he was a janitor in the beginning, but he ended up going to school and getting an engineering degree. So he ended up becoming an engineer for a motor company.
And your mom was
She was a housewife.
awesome. So she's taking care of the family, holding things down, man.
Yeah.
What was the dynamic like in the family, like your parents' relationship with each other and your relationship with your parents?
Um, it was good. It's like my mom was always supportive of whatever I wanted to do. My father was a little bit on the abusive side, you know what I'm saying? And it was verbally, physically, like he was very like he was very kind of adamant, strict kind of father, man. He was a little on the deep end, off on the deep end. But it made us who we are though. My father made us who we are because he was very strong character, very bold individual, but he didn't take shit from nobody.
Right. How do you think that affected you growing up in that kind of environment?
I mean, I feel like, and because my father always had this thing, right? And obviously, this played a big part of me becoming a physician too. Is that he was like, in this country, they're not going to treat us right, and we're not going to be able to have the same opportunities that other people have. But there's certain things that you could do to, to become successful in this country. And one of the things that he put a lot of emphasis on is like school education and becoming somebody like a physician, a doctor was like the ultimate. But ultimately, like, I went to when I was doing schooling and all that stuff, I was just trying to stay focused on that, and
Mhm.
ultimately I got a presidential scholarship to go to Wayne State, downtown. And that was, I did that off of just the grades that I was getting. I did it off the, my own strength. So it's like my pops didn't pay for that. I got it. I got a scholarship that got me to, Wayne State University. And that's where I really started to develop myself for who I am.
Right. How would you describe yourself as a child? Like, were you really quiet? You
I was
social?
really quiet, man. I was really low key. Like I was never like in front of a lot of people. I was real low key, quiet. There's a lot of like domestic stuff going on in my household, and my brother like going in and out of jail. My brother was like, had a lot. He's a fighter.
Right.
He's a prize fighter, and he's fighting, but he was battling alcoholism, and he's getting in a lot of fights and stuff out in and out of the ring, and in and out of jail. So that affected me a lot too. Like when I see my brother go through those things, it just made me feel like, yo, what are the do's and don'ts of living, right? Like you should do this, you shouldn't do that. And with my brother, it was like he kind of like paved the way for me. Like I knew kind of like, okay, stay away from these things. Like do this, don't do this. So I was always just studying everyone around me. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like that put more pressure on you though to be the one to succeed to fulfill like your parents
It
like
did. It
know?
did because like anytime like people were calling out his faults, like, oh, he did this and now he has to go to jail. And it made me feel like, no, then what do I have to do be the opposite? What do I have to do to save the situation? And it was to me, it was always like, man, just focus on school and just keep your head down and just get through it. And I got in fights here and there too because I had people, kids even like say stuff to me like, what's up with that sand on your face or this and that. And like I got in fights, but I was real low key, man. I didn't really break out of my bubble until I was in college. And
Got you.
that was at Wayne State. That was when I really broke out of my bubble, and I broke out of my bubble in a crazy way.
What was your sister like growing up with you guys? Was she
She
like
was also
on
real low key and quiet. She was real low key. It was the one that was the most flamboyant in the family was my older brother. He was the one that was just a loud guy and just going around like, yo, who want to pick a fight with me? Like, yo, I'm gonna kick your ass. And my brother was the one that taught me that like you don't take shit from nobody. Like if somebody's talking about you or somebody disrespecting you, because being Pakistani American, it was kind of like you get picked on, and my brother was like, somebody pick on you, just punch him. Like he was like on that tip, you know.
Right.
He's like, don't. I was like, he's like fighter, you walk away or you fight. He's like, no, you don't walk away, because everyone says you walk away from conflict. You don't walk away from conflict. You take it on and you fight the dude and you kick his ass. Like that was the vibe he always gave me.
Got you. So which part of Detroit did you grow up in?
The west side of Detroit.
And did your parents ever say like why they decided to immigrate to Detroit specifically?
Because the prospect of engineering was there. It's the Motor City, man, the Motown.
Right.
Yeah, and at that time, you got to understand, you got GM, you got Chrysler, you got Ford. You know what I'm saying? So they had the opportunities over there for the engineering.
For sure. What was it like for you growing up in Detroit as a first generation Pakistani American?
It was very lonely. It was very lonely because it was just kind of like, I always have that conflict. I'm not from this. I'm like, I felt like, am I from this country? Am I from that country? And like even in the household, we spoke in Urdu. So it was just always kind of like, at that time there was the racism in Michigan was a lot worse than what it's become now. It's like everything is a melting pot. But at that time it was tough, man. It was I dealt with a lot of racism. That was even leading up to 9/11. After 9/11, things got crazy.
Right.
But I dealt with a lot of just kind of being feeling outcast, man. So that's what, like, when I listened to hip hop was the only thing really that gave me the remedy. When I used to listen to like NWA, Wu-Tang and stuff in my early days, that's what I was like, yo, this is actually making me feel good, making me feel, like I felt that rebellious thing, like I'm an outcast. But when I listen to hip hop, it's like I feel like I belong. You know what I'm saying?
So the demographics of where you lived, was it primarily like black
There was
or
you have there's such a melting pot there. You got whites in areas, then you got the Arabs. So there's a big Arab population. Dearborn is close there, a very big Arab Muslim population. So that was actually really cool and comforting to see that, growing up, But and then obviously you had blacks. So you had all yeah, I dealt with a lot of races growing up.
hmm And how do you think that that impacted you though? But there wasn't a lot of Pakistani Americans there though.
Very few and far between. Yeah, but they all kind of lived in the shadows. They never really came out like that. They was just all kind of like just doing they work and not really trying to break out. You know what I'm saying? They're just minding their own business.